Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And you know, the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it. And I've had a much, I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Dude, let me tell you, it took a long time.
I want to scream, I want to shout, I want to know what it's all about.
Yeah, you know, it really is amazing about all the bad transplants you do see out there. I mean, I was on the train the other day, and I saw 3 guys in one car,
Yeah.
the subway, that it was horrible. It was a horror show. I mean, they didn't hear you, and that's a problem. That's why you have to guys get out there and get as mainstream as you can.
You've got to pull yourself together, man. You've got to get back on your feet again. How can I ever make you understand? You've got the will right in your hand.
You know, I went to Dr. Bernstein only because of you guys. You know, God forbid I would have went to somebody else like Bosley. Bottom line, I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, you know, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And you know, the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it. And I've had a much, I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Dude, let me tell you, it took a long time.
I want to scream, I want to shout, I want to know what it's all about.
Yeah, you know, it really is amazing about all the bad transplants you do see out there. I mean, I was on the train the other day, and I saw 3 guys in one car,
Yeah.
the subway, that it was horrible. It was a horror show. I mean, they didn't hear you, and that's a problem. That's why you have to guys get out there and get as mainstream as you can.
You've got to pull yourself together, man. You've got to get back on your feet again. How can I ever make you understand? You've got the will right in your hand.
You know, I went to Dr. Bernstein only because of you guys. You know, God forbid I would have went to somebody else like Bosley. Bottom line, I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
Now the world don't move.
What time does the show come on? 9 where? Well, what's the name of the show? And what's the name of him? Okay. Well, turn it on then. Jesus. Okay. All right, is it recording? Okay. Hey there, this is Gary Coleman. I don't have any idea what this is about, but you're watching... What? No, not watching. Let me do that again. Take 2. Hey, this is Gary Coleman. I have no idea what this is about, and I think people just need to learn to respect themselves, and other people respect who's bald. You're listening to The Bald Truth. That's 2. All right, fine, but this is it. Otherwise, he's going to have to go in his wallet. All right, here you go. Take 3. Ready? This is Gary Coleman, and you're listening to Spencer Kobren on The Bald Truth.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying,
Now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. I see that someone is trying to call the UK line using a Skype phone or through Skype. There's a good chance that's not going to work for some reason. I don't know if you can do Skype to VoIP normally, but I guess maybe it's possible. But if you are in the UK and you just use your cell phone, because it's very unlikely that you're going to be charged any type of a toll for a relatively local call. So that's the way cell phones work today. Anyway, phone number 888-659-3727. You are watching and listening to The Bald Show. This is The Bald Truth. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to welcome everyone who's listening on iHeartRadio, who may be in their cars, iTunes Radio, Stitcher Radio, through the guys from Queens Network, and of course all of our new viewers who are watching on Joe Tillman's YouTube live page, or just his YouTube page on his live feed. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's say hi to Joe. Joe, I'm not going to do a long opening today. Had a long day. I'm going to let you do some work for a change.
Oh, God.
What's happening?
Hi, everyone.
No pressure.
How'd I do?
Well, I'll tell you what. Just for the new guys who are tuning in, just so you know who we are. I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I'm the author of the most read volumes on the subject and the prevention and treatment of hair loss in the world. Not to sound obnoxious, but it's just the truth. Name of the books, The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Also the founder of the American Hair Loss Association and the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Joe just tags along. No, Joe is... See, if you wanted to do the opening, you could say, you could say whoever the fuck you are, whatever you want to say.
I could have taken that over. I missed my chance.
Yeah. Joe is the original hair transplant mentor. He's a guy who's been in the trenches nearly as long as I have. I think I got about 4 or 5 years on him in the industry. But he has actually been in the trenches probably longer, because he got fucked up multiple times by sadly making the wrong choice at a young age. Had to have several repair surgeries. Now you can see he's a guy who looks like he has a full head of hair, and really understands, I guess the nuances of being a hair transplant patient. I may understand every aspect of this industry, where all the bodies are buried, who's on drugs and who's not on drugs, how the industry is run, how you guys are treated, what you need to avoid, all of that stuff, as Joe does as well. But I have never been under the knife because, A, I knew that after a lot of research, I wasn't a good candidate either physically, hair-wise, or emotionally. And I probably would have caused myself more harm than good, even if everything went perfectly well, because really the majority of the loss that I have to cover is in the back. And I'm able to use cosmetic concealers to make that happen, to live my life, and I don't really mind getting up in the morning and painting my head. So for me, it's a good, it's cool. It works. A lot of people aren't equipped to deal with that, but we're here to guide you in a safe direction when it comes to anything and everything hair loss. And also, if you're considering surgery, please, first of all, you're very lucky you found this broadcast, but please, there's a lot of stuff going on now on YouTube. Joe Tillman brought my attention to it, and I've been watching more and more of what people are doing on their channels, and it frightens me. So you really need to do your due diligence. There's nothing wrong with people sharing their experiences. I think that's really important. But stating certain things as though they're facts guiding people. You know, when we're in a unique space where anybody could essentially be an influencer, whether they're a true expert or not in this world. All they have to do is essentially hang up a YouTube shingle or shingle someplace else that gets some eyeballs, put out a lot of content, and people will listen to them. Please be careful who you listen to in this industry. Joe, I'm going to let you speak on that for a second, then I'm going to talk a little bit about my interesting conference that I attended and spoke at this weekend here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you know, what you're saying is, and for those of you watching, when I turned Spencer on to what's going on in the YouTube world, it really, you know, I was blown away by this because I was seeing, you know, not just the different pieces of advice that were being given, but also the standard for what people are calling a natural result or a good result for their hair transplants. And, you know, like you said, documenting is great. I mean, we wouldn't have, I think that the industry itself wouldn't be pushed forward nearly as fast as it had been if we didn't have patients who were sharing their experiences, sharing their results, and exposing the good and the bad that goes on in this industry based on their own personal experience. That's awesome. But what we've been talking about for the past I can't remember how long ago we started talking about this, but I started talking about the dumbing down of the internet several years back when I realized, when I was noticing that the overall level of knowledge that patients that are doing the research has started to drop. And it's because of the influx of new clinics that are making incredibly wild claims that have no basis in reality whatsoever. And because there's so many of them opening every week, one statistic that I heard in 2013 was that there was one new FUE clinic opening worldwide every week, consistently on average, and I'm certain that it's gone up from there.
The industry has essentially run amok. I was talking to a couple of doctors at this conference, some well-established guys who've been, you know, in the saddle for a long time, and we were talking about how it's really sad for patients that strip is going by way of the dodo, and right now only about 10% of the clinics out there that are kind of like face forward, that are really there, that are really performing a lot of surgery, are still performing strip on a regular basis. And we're starting to see the pendulum swing in the other direction, where more and more newbies, after they've had their first or second FUE surgery, are realizing, well, wait a second, I may need a strip. But what's going to happen when all these guys are, you know, are walking around the clinic in their walkers, and they're not going to be able to perform strips on you? That's what is freaking me out.
That's well said, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the true strip experts will be in the nursing home, yeah.
That's what's happening.
You know, and there's one thing I noticed today. I've been branching back out into the international forums over the past several days, because I used to be really into some of them several years back, but I decided to re-engage because that's where a lot of this information is coming from. It's coming from people that frequent these international forums. So I thought I'd put some education out there. And I was in a great discussion, or I'm still in the middle of a great discussion with several members of, I think it's one of the German forums or the German forum. And someone said something to me that maybe it's a translation error, but it blew my mind when I read this. And it just kind of makes every argument I made moot. And he said, people don't care about naturalness. They care about density.
That's amazing. All right, let's quit now.
We're done.
Yeah.
We quit.
888-659-3727. We're going to go to the phones, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience this weekend, which was really fascinating, to say the least. Phone number again, 888-659-3727. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
That's me, George from Staten Island, New
Oh,
York.
shit, man. You're always like the first guy.
Joe from Staten Island.
Excuse me.
Would you like to may reiterate it? Have you heard it? Excuse me.
Joe from Staten Island.
George, what's happening, man? We will.
What's
I
up,
think.
guys?
I think we actually eventually have to officially produce that, Joe. So we can do that via Skype.
We'll keep it like that, yeah.
And we'll just keep it like, and then we'll use your voice.
You guys are pisses, man. I'm one of the very few New Yorkers in Utah, and people still make fun of my accent.
What accent?
Accent?
I
What?
got an accent. I still say chocolate. I still say quarter. Come on, you got a little bit in there too. Come on.
But
Oh,
George,
listen, I know.
But George, do you say water?
I say water.
You say water.
Water.
I've been here 22 years, and I still can't shake this accent
Years.
off. And it's like I still say off. I say lawnmower. You know, it's.
I have. There's certain words. There's certain words where my New York accent will come out. Mirror is one of them for sure.
Yeah.
A couple of,
There you go.
but most people when they meet me, when I tell them I'm originally from New York, they don't hear the accent right away, and then once they speak with me long enough, there are certain words like the ones that you mentioned. But when you're brought up in Staten Island or places like Brooklyn, at least the old Brooklyn, or on the island, your accent is usually heavier.
Yeah, it is. It's true. I don't know why, but I noticed that. If you're in Manhattan, it's not as bad. Man, I'm originally from Manhattan.
Yeah.
But hey, I got something for you guys. 2 questions for the both of you. Have you heard of Hair Equilibrium? I went to this place on the website, and I thought it was about a new product, and instead it's about a diet. All this time it's about a diet that will bring your hair back. And then the other was, have you guys ever had any threats?
Any what?
Any what?
Threats.
Threats?
Threats. Like, death threats. Like, 'cause
Oh,
you guys,
I actually have, yeah.
I've not had death threats,
Really?
but I have had threats.
I've had death threats. I've had one. It was one death threat on YouTube many years ago, and I had a few others over my career.
Wow.
I had a guy when I was on radio actually, send me one of those crazy, when you cut out letters and paste them on a white piece of paper.
No shit.
I had one of those things. So actually, I should hang that up. I still have it.
Should frame it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was I was on.
I actually think that
online,
one was from a doctor. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that it was. But go ahead.
Oh wow. But yeah, anyway, it was the Hair Equilibrium. Have you guys heard of this one?
I have not heard of the
I've
hair.
heard of the idea of.
Right, but I can tell you that
Yeah.
if it's online, if they're telling you anything about whether it's free or not, there's.
Yeah, they even give you a personal scale, like how far gone are you in the hair loss? Is your mother, brother, and all this stuff, and then it tells you we can get your hair back. You have 81%. Yeah, me. I had an 81% chance of getting my hair back.
Now,
Wow.
was there any fee involved?
No. This was a book that you buy or a CD that.
Right, it's a book.
I guess it's a book.
Yeah.
And you eat these healthy foods that will bring your hair back.
Right now,
Is this a 12 module book?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just gave them my email address. I didn't even open up my email.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I remember this one guy, I'm not going to mention his name, who somehow sold a lot of it. And this is back when people were buying videotapes of, he was known in the industry as a guy who can grow your hair back using mind control. I mean, I'm not even joking. He was actually well known.
Shouldn't be.
No, and so he wanted to come on the program, and he wanted to actually sponsor the program at one point. And you got to remember, this was the beginning of my career. I was like, and I was charging a lot of money per minute, and he was willing to pay it. But it was just like, Jesus, this is just too much, man. And I would say that he made a significant amount of money because it was kind of like the infancy of the internet. and he was doing a lot of his ads through like Muscle Fitness types of magazines and all these things, and anybody would buy any shit. So I'm not saying that diet can't help with your hair, but I can guarantee you that if you have androgenetic alopecia, male pattern baldness, the genes that cause your hair to be sensitive to dihydrotestosterone and miniaturized, that your diet will not grow your hair back. It may get a little better. It may get a little better. You may slow the miniaturization process if you are really eating well, especially during the beginning throes of your hair loss. But, dude, I can't even believe you're a 50-year-old man that actually put your email address into that website.
It was just one of those.
You're done now, man.
Take a look at it.
They got your number
guys,
now.
come on, man.
They got your number. They got your address. You're going to start getting pamphlets in the mail. People knock on the door, door-to-door wig salesmen.
And believe me, these guys are now listening to the show, and they're going to say, as heard on the Bald Truth Radio Show. because we talked about it.
I already got Bosley like every other weekend. I check my mail, and they're always telling me like a sale for 500 grams for X amount of dollars and shit. And I'm just like, nah, too late. I buzz everything
Look,
off.
here's the truth. I mean, Bosley still does the same kind of marketing, and I've been talking to them lately about certain things, and I met with their new head of marketing, and it's sad to me because now they are actually getting to a point, like I spoke to you guys last week about, where on average I would say their surgeries are on par with at least a lot of the mediocre clinics, and in some cases they are, as good as some of the better clinics out there. And they're also doing all the FUE work legally. So I'm talking to this guy. He's looking at me literally like I have, two heads, because he doesn't understand the concept of just all you have to do is tell the truth, explain what you guys are doing, and you can help a lot of people. But it's all about ROI. It's all about, creating the old type of direct TV lead generation, type of stuff. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think that if they really changed their MO, stopped sending out those brochures, stopped with what I consider to be really shitty, unappealing, sorry if you're listening to me, dude, but unappealing online and social media marketing. Basically, they're putting their television ads on social media. Yeah. It's such a waste of money. And no matter what charts they have and no matter how many surveys they do, really all that shit is just done so people keep their jobs. They have the size and the power, and now they're willing to do things in a way that's really legal, where they could truly help a lot of people, I think. But I don't know if they're going to go in that direction or not.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
This is a weird question, but somewhat makes sense. Do you think, the both of you guys, what do you guys think of how women who won't date bald men, they find bald unattractive? Because there's a lot. What do you think, how they think about their sons who are bald or balding?
Here's what I think. I think that when women get older and they have sons who are old enough to start losing their hair, they might become a little more compassionate. And also they're at a point where if their kid is already balding, they're fucking old. So they'll date anybody. That's how I feel about it. If there's a woman over 35 that won't date you because you're losing your hair, then she's got some serious issues. There's something, you don't want to date her anyway.
Which means that there's a lot of women out there that in my experience, I've had mothers come in with their kids, with their sons, very concerned. I mean, a mother is going to be extremely compassionate about her son's issues, and if her son is balding early, or any time as an adult, they're going to be concerned. And I've seen mothers come in with their teenage sons. I've seen women come in with their sons that are in their 30s. It's in everything in between. And I have to say that there were several cases where I think that what Spencer was talking about as being, screwed up, there are bigger issues at hand. That was the case. I remember one case in particular where a woman was saying, "I'm worried about his future because he's balding," and I kept thinking to myself, that's not really that supportive. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Well, that I understand. I mean, especially, well, here's what I see. I see that the mother's worried about his future because he's balding at a young age, and she doesn't want him to have to deal with everything that entails. And she remembers being a young girl who wasn't attracted to young balding men. Doesn't mean that she's not attracted to balding men at her age now.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No.
So that's why this is what I tell the young balding guys to do. Fucking go out there and crush it, make money, and you go and fuck older women. That's it. Because they want a young guy. Enjoy women in their 40s when you're young, and you crush it. You work your ass off, and then when you're 35 or 40 years old, it's not going to mean anything. When you drive up in that Ferrari, because the bottom line is, look, I don't care what anybody says, and this may sound cynical. Common law, if you're listening, please forgive me, but I mean, I guess there is such thing as love in a certain sense where you can bond with somebody and build a life with somebody and have, really care about the human being. But as far as true romantic love, shit lasts about 4 years. Then it's gone. That's just the way that it is. That attractiveness, all of that stuff. So in my view, these guys are like, he only, you see the older guy with a young chick, she's only with him for his money. That's the way it is in life, period.
Yeah, that's just life.
If you were somebody for a few years and you're not doing as well as they think you should be doing, they're not going to be happy with you. That's what it is. I can never say this right. It's quid pro quo, period. That is the way that it fucking works. And I know that sounds cynical, but, I mean, it's all about the money, man. That's it. If you happen to be pretty good looking, like you didn't, if you're good looking enough and you're making more than the average guy, you can have just about any woman you want. If you are good looking enough and you're pulling in, I would say, over $500,000 a year, you're a god. That's just the way. That's the way that it is. You're driving a nice car with, BMW, Mercedes, nothing too fancy, but just solid.
Now you might be in a metropolitan area where you're a god among gods, where that's a distinguishing factor. It's like, okay, well, he only makes $500,000. This guy makes 1.5.
Right.
That's when you got the ladies looking, asking you for a portfolio at the bar.
That's when
in general.
That's why I could essentially say I paint my bald spot, on the first date.
They don't give a
shit.
They
don't give a shit. So anyway, that's honestly, that's just the reality of it. And I wish younger guys would stop. I know what it was like to be young and balding, and
I don't.
You don't, but how it made me feel. If I knew then what I know now, I might not be behind this mic right now because I would have done something else where I would have been successful, whatever it was. But I really would have just probably relaxed a little bit. I still would have gotten on finasteride and figured things out. But it's a fucked up world, man. And yes, it's looks oriented. There's no doubt about that. But you can get past it. Go ahead.
Spencer, Joe, I'm glad you guys fucking came up with this shit, man. You guys, there are millions of men that are suffering from this shit, and women, I'm sorry, I got to mention women too.
Yeah.
And it's so biased. We live in such a biased society, where it is not looked upon as...
Bald women's lives matter.
Yeah, that's right. They do.
Yeah.
They do. And the thing is, it's, again, you cannot help it when you watch a movie, you notice that every guy there has a fucking Norwood 1 or has got the hairline of a 10-year-old. And that's just not normal. It's not normal, but it's like pushed in our heads that that's acceptable, that this is attractive. What you have is not attractive. This is attractive.
Right.
And it's so not good.
We talked about this last week.
And guys, hold on. We'll take your calls in a second. 888-659-3727. Everyone who's on hold, just stay with us. Go ahead.
We talked about this last week with the with the way that celebrities are made up for their film and TV. That's just the presentation. Good guys got a full head of hair. Bad guys not so much. It's the image of beauty. It's the image of sexiness. It's the image of desire. Where all the men are 6% body fat and full head of hair. All the women got big boobs, big curvy asses, small waists, full heads of hair, obviously, and all these little details that Instagram now is telling us that we need to have. So that's just the way that society is.
But here's the beauty of it, guys. And this is not. It is. I'm not a misogynist. I love women, but the reality is, we're fucking men. So as much as we think we have to worry about that, we have to worry about it a hell of a lot less than women. So I am.
We don't put on clown faces every day.
Right. I am going to be I'm going to be 53 years old, and I will tell you that I am probably getting. This is going to sound like I'm an asshole, but as much, if not more, attention now in my life I'm talking about women like in their late 20s, 30s, than I ever have, and I think part of it is, they just sense that you get your shit together. And, the hairspray and the gray hair and all that stuff, it doesn't matter to them. It really doesn't.
No.
But 50-year-old chicks are not getting a lot of attention from, 25-year-old guys. It's just the way that it is.
As long as they don't look like Wayne Newton, they don't care.
That's right. Exactly.
And even in that case, I mean, sometimes they don't care about that, or they don't care about, if you look like Wayne Newton either. But
I think actually a lot of women probably are. They love Wayne Newton. So
I'm talking about the picture versus him crooning to them in one of his Vegas gigs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. All right, guys, listen, we're going to let you go, George, but you're always a pleasure.
Good hearing from you, buddy.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
What accent? I didn't even notice an accent. 888-659-3727. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yeah, hey, you're on the air.
Hey.
Yo, this is Rich. I'm calling from Western Australia at the moment.
Oh, Rich from Australia. Hey, Rich. Welcome, man. What time is it there? What day is it? It's the next day.
It is, it's the 28th. It's 8:30 a.m. at the moment.
Holy cow.
And I thought I'd ring up, so yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
I was trying to get on Skype earlier, but it wasn't letting me, so I had to ring off my mobile.
Well, I'm sorry about that. And you know what? Maybe what we'll do is I will try to set up something where people will be able to call in via Skype. I have like 4 Skype lines. I could probably figure that out. So
yeah,
next
I
time.
mean it's not a huge problem, but
Okay.
I usually listen on YouTube after it's been live, but I wanted to try and ring up today, so I figured I'd try and sort it out before it started to happen. So
I'm glad.
Yeah. How are you guys anyway?
We're hanging in there, man. So what can we do? What can we do for you, man? What's going on? Tell us your story.
Well, I rang up a couple of years ago. I used to live in the UK. You can probably tell by my accent. But I spoke to you in Specs a few years ago. Regarding Propecia. I was having some side effect problems back then, but I've been on the drug now for about, I think, 3.5 years, and that's like a 1.25 milligram dosage a day. I have no problems with that now. So
what happened? So
my secret for that was
you lowered your dosage. That was your secret.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I lowered it to effectively biting a crumb off the tablet every day or every other day, and I just slowly increased how much I was taking, and just over time, I think it took me about 6 or 7 months, but yeah, over that time, I gradually got up to about 1 milligram or 1.25 milligram. What I do now is I bite it every day until there's nothing left. So that usually takes like 4 days. So that's what I do, and I don't have any side effects. I can't really say whether or not the drug's working for me, which is partly why I'm rinking up. But
well, I mean, when you
as far as side effects are concerned,
well, and that's good news, and I think that's really important, especially for the guys who are so hyper concerned about the side effects. You were a person who did experience side effects, and then decided to let me.
I had it bad.
You did have it bad.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how.
I don't know if it was psychological.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, mostly just sexual side effects. I feel like when I first started, trial and error with everything that I read on the internet, so we're talking saw palmetto, nettle root. I was overdosing on zinc at one point. That actually made me miss a flight because I was at the airport and I was violently throwing up because I'd taken too much zinc in the morning.
Holy
and
cow.
it just didn't sit well in my stomach. So yeah, I've tried a lot of stupid shit. And
maybe this will make you feel better. I used to hang up. Maybe this will make you feel better. I used to hang upside down with gravity boots, and I would take niacin capsules and then wet my hair and rub cayenne pepper in my scalp. So if that isn't fucked up,
I mean, it's desperation, isn't it?
It was all and you got to realize it's like 1987. I mean, there was no internet. You talk about desperation. I mean, it was you guys are lucky that you have. And this is what I find interesting is that as much real information that's out there, there's so much misinformation, so much bullshit online still that most guys will avoid doing everything that's right so that they can fix themselves with some bullshit or some gray market product.
Yep.
And they always end up. The only successful people always end up back on either finasteride or dutasteride. So anyway,
it seems to be proven. A lot of people, including yourself, seem to get a lot of good results from it. And the thing that frustrates me is I have no way of really knowing where I would be right now had I not, taken and continued to take the drug to this day, because I don't have like a biological twin who's going through the same thing. So I just have to hope that it is working, and I guess just assess things as time goes on. But for years I've been like, I don't do it as much anymore. I think I was more obsessed with it when I first started tracking my hair loss. But I would record videos of myself and just upload them to a private YouTube channel, or just take photos just to try and track how things were going. But
why do you think I do this show? That's the only reason, so I could see how I look every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me. Okay, so you say you don't know. Okay, for some reason I guess it's either delay or I'm speaking over you. I apologize for that. I'll let you ask your question in a second. But what is it that makes you unsure whether or not you are having success with the drugs? Is it the fact that you haven't grown any hair back, or do you see yourself progressing?
Twofold. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've grown any hair back, but at the same time, there is still a slow progression. My hair loss is predominantly, well, I say predominantly, as far as I'm concerned, it's entirely in the frontal third, or maybe even a bit more generously, it is just in the hairline. It's hard to explain, because obviously I know you guys aren't like the biggest fans of the Norwood scale, and neither am I, because I think hair loss is so individual. But yeah, there's still a slight recession slowly occurring with the hairline, and obviously in an ideal world I'd have taken the drug. My hairline would be, as thick as Brad Pitt's now, and I'd be happy. I'd just get on with my life. And for the most part, I'm not as concerned as I was when I first started taking the drug, just because I remember when I first noticed the receding, I was about 20 years old, I think, but it really first hit me when I moved house, and I was in the bathroom, and it was because it was a completely different kind of lighting that I wasn't used to seeing myself in after having a shower. That's when I really started to panic. I was like, shit, I'm losing all my hair. So,
how old were you? How old are you now, by the way?
I was 28 2 days ago.
Well, happy birthday.
Okay. Happy birthday.
And I will tell you this. I mean, you're taking you're microdosing your drug. So what are you taking? A total of 1.5 milligrams a week?
No, sorry. I'm taking 1.25 milligrams every day.
1.25 mil. Okay.
Of 5
milligrams. Quarter of the ProScar tablet. Sorry, I should have told you that. I'm on the ProScar
tablet. I thought you were biting on Propecia. Okay, so.
No.
I mean, so you're taking a reasonable amount. You're not having any adverse side effects. I'm not going to say, listen, you should take more of this drug. But I happen to be a believer that the drug is dose dependent, and so does Joe. Yeah. And it's something you can talk to your doctor about. If you feel comfortable, raising the dose even by an extra quarter could potentially help you at least slow down, the progression even more, or maybe even stop it. We don't know, in your particular case. But I have known guys who have gone up to 2.5 milligrams a day or even 5 milligrams a day, believe it or not, who have had really fantastic results. Now, would I do that? I probably would. Right now I take a very low dosage. I take 1 5 milligram tablet once a week. That has been able to maintain most of, what I was able to save. I do notice that as I'm older, the part line is a little thinner or a little wider, so I'm using more paint or a Durmatch than I was using just, 2 or 3 years ago. But it's still, it's so slow that it's relatively insignificant. But that, to me, that option is always there, and especially if it's been in your body for a long time. I'm going to let Joe answer.
I would recommend that if you're going to start upping your dosage, do it slowly, but also be careful with going back and forth. I'm a big believer in the efficacy of upping your dosage, but I've also seen I've seen many cases where dosages have been reduced, either the intake frequency or the actual dosage itself, and loss has occurred. Regression has occurred.
Yeah.
So I highly caution you against, the idea of, well, I can just bump it up to X dosage per whenever, and if I don't like it, I can back it off. You can do that early on, but you can't do that, with more of a longer term frequency of use. One of the things I would recommend you do is stop biting the tablet and go to your chemist or your pharmacist and spend $5 on a proper pill cutter, because that'll help you get a much more exact dosage. It's still going to crumble a little bit. You're still going to have some extra powder, but it's far more accurate than simply biting the tablet. It's already a funny shaped tablet as it is. And I can imagine in my mind's eye how you're doing it. You're probably circling it because of the funny shape. But the best way, in my opinion, is to get the pill cutter, cut it into quarters that way. That's the way I do it. And if you want to play with the dosage and bump it up, you can maybe do thirds. And play with it like that. A lot of times now, I can say a lot of times I get this issue where people are have even had the side effects, and they're asking me, what can they do, because they don't want to just stop taking it because they know the consequences. And before I continue, I'm not a doctor. This isn't professional medical advice, but in my experience, you can start lower.
And by the way, the Bald Truth endorses nothing, does not endorse anything Joe Tillman says. Go ahead.
Just to be clear. But I've had a lot of, or I've read a lot of people I'm talking to of having success with the idea that they can start off slow and slowly build up to the point where they think, well, maybe they've reached a threshold, and they don't want to go past that threshold, or if they do go past the threshold, they can back off because they've only been doing it for a while. So what I've been recommending people try is with ProScar, or 5 milligram generic, if you choose to take the generic, is take 1/4 of a tablet once a week, every Monday. And for the second month, and do that for a month, and then the second month you can take it Mondays and Thursdays. And if that's fine, then the third month do 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then if that's fine, you just continue until you reach that threshold. It can be 5 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever. And if after using it for a month or 6 weeks, side effects seem to be creeping in, then you got the option of continuing as it is, because a lot of times the side effects will dissipate with continued use, or you can back off to be right at that threshold so you don't have to worry about it anymore, and you'll still be getting an effective dosage.
That makes sense.
And I've had several people contact me after 8, 9, 10 months. Some of them keep me updated every month, and all of them are having success with this. Some of them having had side effects in the past, but they just kind of jumped right into it, head first, a full tablet of Propecia every day. And this seems to be a good alternative. So the efficacy with dosage increases. There is evidence behind that. And I think that, you're already taking it every day. So if you want to try increasing it, do it in small dosage, stay at that level for 4 to 6 weeks, see how you can tolerate it, and make a decision.
All right, man.
Yeah.
So
it's something that I've been considering.
I hope that we were able to help you a little bit. I want you to. The good news is you're not having any adverse side effects. You've been on the drug for a while, and there's probably, and again, I'm not a physician, there's probably a very slim chance that raising the dosage, even if it's going to be more effective for you, which it really can be, is going to affect you in the way in which it did when you were dealing with side effects. Some of that could have been psychosomatic. You don't know. Your body's used to having this. You're taking this, and your body's used to and tolerating it well for a long period of time. So I think that's probably the way to go. But obviously talk to your doctor about it. See what they have to say. We are not physicians here, but I think it's probably pretty. I think a lot of people would advise you in the same manner. Let's put it that way.
That's cool. I did have one question though. Basically, about 3 months ago, I was going through quite a period of stress, like raised stress, ongoing for about 2 or 3 weeks or so. Still a little bit to this point, and I was just wondering because I've trolled through all of your old videos and stuff, and I've never found anything where you're talking specifically about stress. I wasn't sure if it was, an old wives' tale where they say stress makes your hair fall out, or if there is actually, do you have any evidence that shows that it can speed up the conversion, or, just for whatever reason, can stress cause hair loss?
Well, I'll give you, that's a good question. I will say that, extreme stress, physical trauma, sometimes even the death of a sibling or a spouse can possibly cause your body to shut down enough where you could go through a telogen and effluvium. I have lived an incredibly stressful life.
Sorry, the last month.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Spence. I think there's a bit of a delay.
I
just wanted to say the last about 3 months ago when it started, I was just dealing with that as I was, but then maybe about a month or so afterwards, I noticed that my hairline was significantly thinner than it had been for a while, and that's primarily why I've rang you up, because even if my hair has slowly been receding whilst on the drug, and that's something I believe I could maintain and eventually get the transplant when I feel like it's the right time for myself. I've been trying not to rush into surgery, obviously, leave that as a last resort, but it did make me wonder, well, is this related to the stress, or is this just a coincidence? So, yeah. Sorry,
I think it depends on the person, and I will tell you that I have lived through my brother being killed, being involved with the same woman for 17 years, and and all the stuff that really, but in all seriousness, some severe. I essentially lost everyone in my family. I have dealt with stress that I think a lot of people it's difficult for them to even move on in life with. So in my particular case, no, I don't think that stress really played any major role in my hair loss. And I know a lot of other people who have dealt with, the death of their wives or their husbands, stuff like that. And, and these are people with androgenic alopecia. Nothing seems to speed up. But you do hear the stories where stress can cause significant hair loss. And it really, I guess it depends on how the person's body handles that stress. Now, Joe, I'm going to let you maybe talk about your experiences. You've been with the same person for a long time, and you seem to have your hair.
Well, I think transplanted hair is impervious
yeah.
to higher cortisol levels brought on by stress. No, I think it is a great question, and it's a subject that I don't think has really been studied that much. I can't think of anything concrete that I've read or heard about, but I can say that I think that women are more susceptible to stress-related hair loss simply because their hair loss conditions are so much more complicated in general because, with their variations in hormone levels that don't affect us nearly as much, and just the way that women deal with stress in general, I think it's more of an influence on them. Like for instance, sometimes women talk about hair loss due to pregnancy from stress. That's actually more of a hormonal imbalance, the way things work with that. So there is some stress with that, I'm sure. But it's mainly just the way that their hormones are going batshit crazy because of the,
it's postpartum telogen effluvium or postpartum effluvium, and that's just because when you are pregnant, your estrogen levels are at an all-time high. So most pregnant women will have the most beautiful hair during the time of their pregnancy. And then as soon as those estrogen levels drop, then bam, they go through a tremendous effluvium. In some cases, it actually is the trigger that is switched to kind of hasten their female pattern hair loss.
Yeah.
So is it heightened testosterone in women that can or cause hair loss for them?
Well, it's usually it's a combination of things that can cause hair loss in women, especially women who are genetically prone to it.
Because my partner has PCOS. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Sure, absolutely. And that hair loss is a huge...
Yeah, of course. So you know all about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is actually something I was debating if I should bring up or not, but it's a bit sensitive. It's not really my concern, but I have been, I've been looking at her scalp, and again, like I'm not saying, you're going to get a transplant or some shit, but I have been questioning: is her hair looking a bit thinner on the top? And a
lot of women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. They deal with significant hair loss, and because of their hormonal, fluctuation. She probably should talk to her endocrinologist about it, and they may actually help.
She hasn't ever mentioned it. I don't think she realizes. I don't think she's noticed anything. So in my head, it's a bit of a balancing act. It's like, do I not say anything, or do I try and help her before it gets worse? I mean, I guess.
You're very sensitive about it. If the shoe were on the other foot, she'd be like, she'd wake you up in the morning with a bottle of Rogaine. Sadly, that's just the way women are.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't be very happy if she was pressing me about my hair issues. She's very supportive in that manner, so I guess I kind of have to be thankful for that. But
absolutely,
something I was considering.
I probably wouldn't bring it up.
You start talking about it.
If it were me, I probably wouldn't bring it up. I would probably just like, she will notice it at some point, and she may already notice it, but she's just not talking to you about it yet.
The thing is that when women notice this kind of thing, it's going to be, or when a woman does notice this kind of thing, it's going to be far more, in my opinion, far more devastating, because it's so much less socially acceptable for women to be losing their hair. Even though so many women do lose their hair, it's a normal thing. It's something that it's just one more thing they have to add to their clown makeup routine every day, to go from the face, and then they start having to do the hair. It's devastating. I mean, it's just, I've seen some really, really hard luck cases of women just really upset.
Young women, women who are like 21, 22 years old,
yeah.
who that genetic switch was switched because they began birth control at a young age.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
that's poison.
So yeah, I mean, once it gets to the point where it's, well, I'll tell you this: if you think that she's losing her hair, there's a good chance that she already notices herself. It depends on the kind of person she is.
I don't think she does, because she always talks about how thick her hair is, and so in my mind, I'm thinking maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
But the point is that if she doesn't notice now, she will notice eventually. She may not mention it, and that's when with her knowing that you know more about hair loss than she does, she'll bring up the question. She'll ask you.
And also, I will tell you that in many cases, a woman's hairstylist will let her know.
Yeah, good point.
You know, so or you could just like start playing the ball of truth around the house. See if she reacts to it.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, she gets fed up with all the shit I watch on YouTube. It's all politics, hair loss, shit that she's not interested in. So yeah,
dude, eventually
I try and do all this stuff when she's not in the house.
Eventually, if you can, you need to have your own space, either your own apartment somewhere that she doesn't know about, or trust me, okay, or just like a really good man cave.
I've got my man cave and my headphones, so they help. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you need, and sadly, that's marriage, man, and that's having a partner. So, listen, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to be. I hope that you're going to be okay, and it's nice to hear from you again. And let us know. Keep us informed.
Yeah, I'll try and call back if I have any more questions. But I really enjoy the show, and just keep it up. Good work.
We're gonna keep trying, man. We're gonna be here until I have a stroke. All right. You take care.
Thanks for calling.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. It's interesting. Most shows will try to get someone off the air. They want to rifle through phone calls, and that's good. But, what are you going to do? You want these people to have their questions answered. You want them to feel that, there's someone out there that really cares. When I was on radio, I had a producer just like, speed it up. I'm like, it's a fucking hair loss show.
Guys are calling in with problems. It's like you can't rush it.
Right. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Mordecai Zipkoff. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Mordecai, welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. I can't believe I got through.
Mazel tov.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I probably never called any talk shows before in my life, so this is kind of a first for me. I've been watching you guys for a very short period of time, probably only the last couple of weeks. I'm 48 years old.
Do me a favor. Let me ask you a question. Are you on a speakerphone right now?
Yeah.
I am, but I've got you muted. Do you want me to go regular? I can.
Yeah, if you could speak into your headset, that would be great, or into your mouthpiece.
Is this better?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay, cool. Okay. Right. So let's see. I'm 48 years old. I started losing my hair when I was 19 in the 80s, when long hair was kind of a big deal.
Oh, I know, dude. Who are you talking
to? Mm-hmm. I was in a band, and my guitar player was the one who pointed it out. And I was like, no way, it's not happening,
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh no, you want to play with this band, you got to start wearing a wig.
You're kidding me.
Oh my God.
Wow.
In the end, I ended up leaving the band. I ended up, giving up music as a profession.
Hang on. Were you the bassist for Bon Jovi? What?
Well, you had it half right. I was a bass player, so yeah.
He was the ex-bassist for Bon Jovi.
Yeah, well, that's what happened.
I'm not allowed to talk about that. No, I'm kidding. Anyway,
so do you think? Let me ask you a question before you go on. Do you think that you gave up your dream of music because of your hair, or was it just like you had to get a job?
You know what? That's in retrospect, I would be lying if I said that the hair didn't play a part.
And I think that's really, compelling, and that's why I wanted to ask that question. And for all of you doctors out there and people who are in the industry, this is what I was talking about at this conference. People who have changed their career paths, because of their concerns over their hair loss. And I can understand in your particular case, being a musician, and where looks, especially back then when you're playing rock and roll, long hair is what's happening. I could see that kind of like maybe diminishing your self-confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I would say more than a little, man. I got to tell you. You want to talk about being self-conscious. Just go to a rock club wearing a wig, not knowing whether it's going to get caught somewhere, it's going to get yanked on, or if it's on crooked and you can't tell because there's no mirror nearby.
Jesus.
I did that a couple of times, and after that I said, fuck this. I went ahead, shaved it down, and just kind of went to college and, became a computer programmer, which is what I am now.
So you went from a big hair band bassist to just shaving your head overnight?
Kind of,
More
yeah,
or less?
actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. Basically, I dropped out of college to do the music thing for a little while. It really didn't take off. The hair started falling out, and looked in the mirror one day and said, what the hell are you doing? Grow up and get a real job,
So basically, you went through college. You're saying that you went back to college after that?
Well, yeah. Basically, I dropped out of college at 19. And I was out for about a year and a half. And then I went back and I got a business degree, basically. And then I ended up just doing software development after that.
So while you're in college, everyone thought that you were a skinhead. Because in the early '90s, that's what you had. That's why I didn't shave my head, or one of the reasons why I didn't shave my head, because everyone thought you'd be a skinhead. And so I'm just impressed, man. I've never heard of someone going from big hair band to shaving their head in a short period of time. That's impressive.
Well, Howie Mandel did it. Howie Mandel did it.
Oh, I remember that. Well,
yeah, he disappeared for a while.
He disappeared for a while, and then there was no more wig. Allegedly, exactly. He allegedly had a wig. I'm not saying he did. I don't know for a fact. Sorry, but it appears that way to me.
Yeah, he rocks the bald head okay.
He actually looks really good.
As far as the whole as far as the whole skinhead thing, if you look at my face, there's no way in hell you consider me to be a skinhead because I got the Jewish nose and the whole thing.
Okay.
So that just wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. You take one look at me, and there's no way you'd think I was.
Well, your name is Mordecai, right? You said.
Yeah. Well, people called me Morty, but
Morty.
Yeah.
That's
like
awesome.
if you look up Jew in the dictionary, and there's a picture of me right there.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Good for you.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I started losing at 19. Basically, I went through. I got. It started out with, with the temporal recession. Then that ended up turning into a forelock, and then that finally went away. And now I guess I'm at probably a 4A to a 5. Is basically where it is.
Now here's what I find most interesting. We're close in age. I got about 5 years on you, or 4 years on you. But you started to lose your hair at such a young age. You made the decision to shave your head, lived your life, probably had a successful life, and you're still.
I'm not dead yet, so.
Right, but you're still calling the bald show, and that's what that is compelling because it shows you that even if someone has the balls enough and is not, I'm not saying man enough, and is equipped enough to just shave his head and move on with his life, it still fucks him up to some degree.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't try to deal with it.
Right.
I went ahead and granted it was very early on, but I did the minoxidil thing for a minute. At the time I didn't have a whole lot of expendable income, and I basically, it was one of those things where you tried using it and it didn't look like it was doing much, but then when I stopped, I had a big old shed.
Right.
And it was, I remember it distinctly because I was with this girl, and she's running her fingers through my hair, and it's coming off in her fingers, man.
Oof, that's heavy.
Yeah. Oh, she's like, "What's going on with you?" I was like, I was like, it's just falling out, honey. It's okay.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I just got it cut. And they didn't clean it out too well. So.
I would have been like, it's radiation poisoning. I didn't want to tell you.
I don't have much longer to be here, so.
So let's make this happen.
Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
We're just not
he
right.
was a singer too. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so yeah, you shave, you deal with what you're dealing with, you try your best to look your best as you can, but you never stop thinking about it, man. I mean, you pull out your old, high school pictures, or you look at pictures when you were a kid, or pictures of when you turned 18, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, and it's like, fuck, man, what the hell happened? Anyway,
Sure.
So let me fast forward to today, because it's why I ended up starting really kind of to engage with you guys. So my friend Kristen, she's like, hey, you should use creams for your wrinkles because you're starting to get a little wrinkle in the face. So she said, try using one of these retinol creams, right? So I bought the retinol cream, started smearing it on my face, and when you smear, I smear all the way up the ball, because why the fuck not?
Right.
And probably within a month or two, I noticed like a few little hairs where the forelock used to be.
Sure.
Like, little ones, and I was like, where the hell is this coming from?
Yeah.
And as time went on, a few more of them showed up. And I was like, this is very interesting. And at the same time, I was seeing this other girl who was a singer, and she's singing the stuff that I used to listen to when I was her age, right? And I'm starting to think to myself, do I want to give this another whirl? I've got a little bit of disposable income now. I can start looking into maybe taking some real action. I started, hit the YouTube channels and found you guys. And I wrote Joe not too long ago, I think probably a little over a week ago, and I asked him questions about, cost.
So are you still writing people back, Joe? I thought that was going to end.
I don't think it's ever going to end.
You guys tell them to call the show.
Not that I didn't appreciate the email.
Yeah.
I get a lot of them. So.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, Joe, first of all, you responded super fast. It was on a Saturday, and you responded the same day, which I was very impressed with.
Oh, yeah.
Just so that you know.
Yeah, it's because he has no life.
Yeah,
this is all he likes to do.
Because I have no life, exactly. I'm sitting right
Dude,
in my office every day.
We do a balding show. There's got to be a little something wrong with us. But go ahead.
There's something wrong with you guys. I'm calling a balding show. What does that say about me?
Yeah, but the fact that there is one.
Yeah,
I dedicated my entire life to this for well over 20 years. That's how fucked up I was about hair loss. So,
anywho,
yeah.
So, So anyway, I figured I'd tell you my story, and then I wanted to pepper you guys with questions because that's what you're there for.
All right.
So, Joe answered the first question, which was, "What does 10K buy me, given my loss?" And he's like, "Well, you could probably get your hairline back, but you can't do anything about mid-scalp with that kind of a price." And I was like, okay, because to be quite honest, I don't necessarily want to go back to a Norwood one.
Right.
I didn't mind having deep temple recession. I figured 48 years old, I don't want to look like a 15-year-old.
Right.
I want to look like a man who's 48, who's distinguished, but who isn't bald.
Right.
So if I would go to say like a 3, or something like that, is that something which patients would typically ask for, or not really? And what are the concerns about that? Because if I'm going to have them rebuild my forelock, I don't necessarily have them build it so that I could do a pompadour. I just want it to look, like a 48-year-old guy who basically has had perhaps recession, which is typical of somebody who's in their late 40s.
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Your Norwood 5A, I pulled up your email because you're telling me you're a 5A. So if you're, a 4A to 5A, there's not going to be much difference with the numbers, but you're looking at, a situation where most guys in your position, they come in and say, I don't want something too crazy, I don't want to look like I did when I was 18, but I'm hoping I can, I don't know if you can see the camera, see the screen, but I'm hoping to, maybe get my temples filled, and they start pointing to, like four centimeters above their eyebrows.
No,
don't
I'm
want
not
anything too
do
crazy.
That's crazy.
But no, I mean, and in reality, most guys will say, you're 48. Is that where you are, Mordecai? Yeah. Okay, so same age as me. So you'd want something that frames your face, which automatically gives you a younger appearance, but you don't want it to be crazy. Something like what I've got would probably be maybe a little bit lower, would be appropriate for you.
Actually, I think your hairline where it is right now is actually pretty much what I'd want. The only thing I would say is perhaps I might want to go deeper in the center. More like, because again, you could kind of see like if you looked at my scalp right now, you could see where the where the hairline used to be, because the finasteride seems to be bringing it back.
Right. So is that higher or lower than where mine is?
It's a little bit lower, but it's only like I said, where the forelock is, just in the center.
Right. Okay. So roughly the same, give or take. So there's some things to consider. Okay. First off, it depends on your hair type. Is it fine? Is it coarse? Is it dark? Is it light? Are you a pasty white guy? Like really fair skin? Do you have some sort of melanin base to your skin? Where olive complexion. But then also, how far are the sides recessed? Because if your temple points are gone and the sides have recessed, then that really limits your options, especially for the amount of money that you're talking about.
Gotcha.
So, especially in a case like yours, if the sides have, well, I'm sorry, I was assuming. Let me ask the question: are the sides recessed? Do you have temple points? Are they gone, or is there still some semblance of the little triangular tufts behind your eyebrows?
Okay, I can answer that. So I have some temple points, but they are not as pronounced as when I was younger.
Okay, fair enough. So, that determines how far forward your hairline is going to be. If they don't exist, if they've pretty much disappeared, then you can't do any sort of even moderately aggressive lowering of a hairline, because the profile will be off balance. Okay, so in a case like mine, my temple points are very rebuilt. I mean, they were not only gone, but the sides were recessed. I've got like what's this popped up on my screen? I've got like, I think roughly 2,000 grafts just used for my temple points on both sides. So roughly 1,000 grafts each side. And so, yeah, I mean, the higher the better. But also you've got the option, or the reality that the higher the hairline goes, the thicker it can be. Because if you're working on a set budget where only X number of grafts are available, you got a set number of grafts possible, then the further you spread those seeds out, the thinner, it's going to be. So if you can bring it up higher, you can actually kind of compensate for a higher hairline with density. Or higher density. That actually gives illusion of it being lower.
And that's actually, I mean, it's a very thorough response, but that's a lot of people don't realize that your temple points really dictate how you're going to really do with the transplant. If you can actually wear a hairpiece that actually can look undetectable, because a lot of guys, sadly, end up getting hairpieces, they lower their hairlines, even if they have the right density, because of those temporal points, because they're so far recessed, it just looks like they're wearing a hair hat. There are those out there who have such limited donor that I have suggested in the past that they use that donor to build up those temporal peaks so that they can actually wear hair where it can look natural. And they've had success with that. I know that's not what you want to do, but Joe's answer was really spot on. I think that Joe's hairline is actually relatively low and it's age appropriate for sure, but it's relatively low for guys who had so many hair transplants. So again, he was very lucky that he was able to kind of maintain that youthful appearance even in his late 40s and have a pretty, I'm not saying it's super low, he still has a really normal looking and age appropriate hairline. But even if he was a little higher, it would look very natural. So I think Joe's response is good. Joe, I agree with it. Can you see his temporal points in his image?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could see him, definitely.
Yeah. So Let's see,
But
from
like,
here
but like,
all the way back to about.
Spence, yours are more pronounced than his are, I would say.
Yeah, mine. I have actually I'm very lucky in that respect. It's pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
and his
good.
are all natural, and he was fortunate not to lose those. But it's I mean, if you're still dealing with that number of $10,000 for a procedure, and sorry, I meant to continue on with this. If you're a Norwood 4A to 5A, that's going to give you a fairly thin result because it just I mean it's. I don't know where you are now as far as how much hair you have in that area, because in your email you said you still have some thin hair there, but yeah, I mean, look, I think that if you don't have the funds now to get enough hair to actually do it right,
don't do it, man.
Then just don't do it.
If your budget, if you have a 10,
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. Actually, that was just a repeat of the question that I sent to email. That's kind of not really the reason I was calling. It was more along the lines of, the idea of what quote unquote is an age appropriate hairline. That was kind of the main focus of that question anyway. The other question had to do with like I said, so I added minoxidil in around November of last year, and that seemed to be doing stuff. And then I started on the finasteride probably, gosh, I want to say, well, since Dad passed away, which is just a little over a month ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Sorry.
No, yeah, it's so funny, bro. I mean, my dad's hairline was almost identical to mine.
Yeah.
And like, I was toying with the idea of doing a transplant, and then when Dad passed away, I'm suddenly thinking, do I really want to make myself look different than my dear old dad because I loved him so much? But
yeah.
That's an aside. So anyway, I started on the finasteride at that point. And what I noticed was that the pressure from the fire hose started going down. Not so much in terms of the pressure from the fire hose when it's about to release. It's just the volume seems to be going down.
Right, and that's very common. You're probably not going to be shooting ropes, as I say, if you are taking this drug. But if it doesn't affect the quality of your orgasm, then what's the difference?
Okay, that was my first question. Is that kind of just the way it is, or is that just temporary that goes away? And
yeah,
I figured I'd ask. So.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty common. It usually doesn't go away. For some people, it can get a little bit. You could have a little bit more seminal fluid eventually, but the viscosity changes for most guys significantly. I'm trying to be diplomatic. Instead of saying shooting ropes, but, yeah, I mean,
every time you say that, I lose it. It's just the funniest damn thing.
Yeah, but that's it. I realized, once I started taking that, I was no longer shooting ropes, and that was it. I was fine with it. Didn't make a difference.
Okay.
I'm not going into porn. So.
All right. No, I wanted to know because
unlike some people,
hey, what's going on?
Yeah, if this thing doesn't work out for Joe, he may have to go into porn.
Again.
Well, I mean, the good news is with Dad passing, I'll be coming into a little bit of money, and I may do this right.
I have to tell you this. I mean, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be totally straight up with you. You're 48 years old. Do not use your dad's inheritance to have a hair transplant right now. Wait.
Okay.
Save that money. Really give it some thought. See if finasteride works for you. See if using the minoxidil with the retinol or retin A gives you any type of, even if it's just a little peach fuzz that frames your face, that may make you feel more comfortable. You live this long without hair, the last thing you want to do is come into a couple of bucks and spend it on a hair transplant that could end up being fucked up no matter who you go to.
Then you gotta save up money to get that fixed.
So then you're like, oh my God, I just spent, Mordecai Senior's, last, $100,000 or whatever on a hair transplant.
I was never gonna spend that kind of money.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, I just want you to be prepared for that and just understand it's not just about money. It's not just about how many grafts you can get. It's not just about the possibility of what kind of outcome can I get with these characteristics. You have to also put into the equation, what if this doesn't work out for me? How am I going to deal with this? Will I be able to deal with this? And that's a downer. No one wants to hear the truth. But
no, dude, that's why I'm calling you guys, because I want to hear the truth. So
well, you're going under the knife no matter what. So even if it's metaphorically,
once you're cut, you're cut.
Yeah, if you have FUE or strip, once you're cut, you're cut. And if you don't like what transpires after that year of seeing how things grow in, you may be thinking to yourself, why the fuck did I do this? I had a good life. I'm out there still getting laid with my bald head and all this stuff. So that's how I feel about it. You don't seem as while you're still interested in this and it still bothers you and you want to do something about it and you're in a financial position to make this happen. Surgery is always going to be there. So really take your time.
Okay. All right.
All right, man.
That's fair, man. That's
all right.
You can ask for more. One last thing I wanted to tell you before I go.
Sure.
Was I wasn't going to consider going to anyone except somebody in I guess it's IAHRS.
It's the IAHRS.
IAHRS.
Yeah.
Because the guy I picked was in that list anyway. So.
Well, listen. I think that's actually your smart move, and sadly, you can go to the best IAHRS doctor on that bench. And, starting player, and you may be like, why did I do this? That's what I tell everybody.
Yep.
Okay. Surgery isn't for everybody. But with that said, you also may be a guy, because you are mature, who just gets a little bit of work done and is so thrilled that it could be life-changing. So just really take your time and, consider all your options before you have surgery.
One thing you can do is once we're done with this broadcast, or if you want to move on to other things, you can go look at my hair transplant class playlist. And hair transplant class number 1 is don't have a hair transplant, and it talks more about what we've been talking about here to force you to think about the possible downsides of having hair transplant. Because the message is if you haven't thought of these things, then you're not ready for a hair transplant to begin with. So that's a good way to move and to watch that, and then just progress from there.
All right, Morty, listen, we wish you the best of luck. Keep listening and let us know what you decide to do.
You got it, man. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for calling.
Right, take care. Thanks for calling.
Morty, good guy.
Hold on. Yeah, Morty is a good guy. Guys, phone number 888-659-3727.
Don't buy wigs that come off at the wrong time. Maury's wigs don't come off, even underwater. And remember, Maury's wigs are tested against hurricane winds. Don't forget about money. You can afford a Maury wig, priced to fit every budget. So call me now. And
That's
come
awesome.
in for a personalized fitting.
That was a real pain in the ass to find, too. I'm going to play it again.
Maury's wigs don't.
It just came to me. I was like, I got to try to get this done. I couldn't get it done. I was trying to get it done just as soon as Maury got off the phone. But I didn't have it in the 360. I had to actually go to YouTube. Anyway, phone number is 888-659-3727. Now, we will take some more phone calls, but then we're going to call it a night. I told you guys that I spoke at this conference, and I initially was asked to speak about how to grow a successful hair transplant practice. And what I decided to do was, I guess, a little unorthodox, because I decided to just go there and tell the truth about the industry and what you need to know if, for physicians who are interested in getting involved in this, and all the possible pitfalls of getting involved and making the wrong decisions, and essentially just buying these turnkey devices. And I think it went over pretty well. I think people were pretty shocked. When you're out on a dais, when you're on a panel, you have the opportunity to kind of view the audience as they're watching everyone else in your session speaking before you. And, Joe, all I can tell you is this, and there's nothing against the speakers. It's just the nature of these medical organizations.
Yeah.
People, I just was watching people, they're on their phones, they're getting up, they're going down, this and that. I'm just like, not only is it rude,
yeah,
I don't even know why they're sitting there at the conference to begin with if they're not going to be listening.
Of course.
I can't even believe it. But the truth is...
I know why. It's because they're looking for the next big thing to jump on.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So Anyway, long story short, I get up there, and I decided to give my talk the way that I give my talk and explain to them that I'm not going to be talking about what you think I'm going to be talking about. And all you guys are here. The only reason you're sitting in this room is because you want to make a buck through hair transplant surgery. But I'm going to tell you the truth. And I got to say, I met this woman. She was a very sweet woman from one of these device makers. And she came up to me and she introduced herself. And she was very kind and, very gracious and all this stuff. But when I saw her face in the back of the room after I spoke, she had lost about 7 shades of color. And all I did was tell the truth. But part of telling the truth was I wanted to give these people the perspective of someone who's in the trenches. And I think that this is important for you guys to hear this as well. Because I wanted to give somebody the perspective of someone who's going to be actually performing surgery on you, not just the doctor. And if anyone decides to buy a turnkey device, the device that they are going to be purchasing is probably going to be utilized by one of these traveling technicians. Now, some of these technicians are incredible. Some of them are not so great. So I wanted to bring on now is my undercover tech, just for a couple of minutes, so she could kind of tell you guys what she told me, and this is what I presented at the conference. See if we can make this work.
I have seen things that I can't unsee. And in the last year or so, I've started working more and more with doctors who have bought into this idea of, we can buy this expensive piece of equipment and go and just run with it without, taking time to learn anything or train their staff. I know what I'm about to say is kind of a very critical statement, but what these physicians who are interested in just buying an expensive piece of equipment and jumping into hair transplant, what they're being sold is a lie. It is a blatant lie, and it may not be intentional. You can get started with a tool that's less expensive if you just find the right team to kind of support you and help you get going. Then you have monies left for marketing. You have monies left for finding someone to do your consultations or help you with your consultations who knows what's going on, instead of, just like, here's some materials on what we offer and offering them a menu like they can choose what they want. When in reality, as a physician, it's your job to assess or to have people who can help you assess each patient and figure out what the best course of treatment is for them. I think we tell patients to do their research, and I think when we're in the medical community, we need to do the same thing. And not that there's anything wrong with big device companies or these, expensive pieces of equipment, but the bottom line is the people who are coming to you to talk to you about them are salespeople, and they're trying to sell you something. And as a physician, you need to take a step back and look at your practice and evaluate what your code of ethics is and what you think is morally right, and figure out if that device and what they offer align with what you believe. Doctors are buying into the idea that transplants are easy and they can do whatever they want, however they want, and it doesn't affect the results. And the unfortunate part for patients is it takes a year for everything to heal, for grafts to be growing. So patients have no idea. They have no idea what's happened to them until it's too late.
Now, why I thought that was important, even though that was geared towards doctors who were getting into the field, for you guys to hear, is that, she made some very salient points. One is that the machine means nothing. It is really, everything is 100% user dependent. And while she did talk about you can then, save your money and spend it on marketing, things like that, that's what this talk was about. But she also made it very clear that, a lot of these doctors are being sold this dream that hair transplantation is one size fits all, that anyone can get involved if they buy with this magical machine. And sadly, they are putting patients in harm's way every single day. So when I get questions through this broadcast through the American Hair Loss Association, through the IAHRS. I'm sure that Joe's getting plenty of questions, same type of questions that I'm getting, whether they should have an artist procedure or a neograft procedure or a smart graft procedure, all these different grafts, turnkey device procedures. She said exactly what you guys need to hear. These patients don't know, half these patients don't know what they just did to themselves, what was just done to them. It takes them a year to find out that they were fucked up. And I thought it was really important for these doctors to hear this. I will tell you this. Besides the product manufacturers being a little bit weirded out by it, I saw not a single, I'm scanning this room, there wasn't a single person on their cell phone. They were riveted to this talk. And people came up to me afterwards to ask me questions. I've been contacted since. I don't think any of the device makers actually made any sales this weekend, but that's okay. But that's okay. I mean, it's not that I don't want them to. It's just that if you're a doctor going to buy this, you have to learn your craft. Period. Exactly. You need to learn how to do this yourself, and not just sign off on a surgery. Because so what I've decided to do, we've done some undercover doc stuff. What we're going to be putting on the new YouTube channel a lot is I'm going to have undercover tech segments and undercover doc segments. And, of course, the segments with Joe as well. And that is going to be on Hair Transplant Podcast YouTube channel, right? That's what it's called? Okay.
Yeah. Hair Transplant Podcast.
Right. So I think, go over there if you can now, subscribe. I think we're up to 19 or 20 subscribers, and for some reason that excites me. Because we just put the page up. I know it seems pathetic, but it will grow.
And it's growing.
But I will be doing a lot of undercover, people who are in the trenches, who are out there to tell you the truth. I spoke to this one technician who said that while we were under the belief that doctors who were throwing away tissue, that was like a thing of the past, that it's happening almost as much as it ever did back in the late 90s. Because at the end of the day, these traveling technicians just want to go home. And if they have 200 extra grafts to place, they don't want to do it. They'll just throw them in the garbage. Now, I'm not saying this happens all the time. I'm not saying that every technician has this type of mentality. But this is something that you consumers, people who are considering surgical hair restoration, have to be made privy to. And just so you know how to make better informed decisions. And for all the doctors who listen to this program, believe me, we know where all the bodies are buried, and so do these technicians who are traveling to your places of business. And they are now willing to come to me. We alter their voice. They are behind the shadows and tell us the truth. And we are collecting this data. And this is not a threat. This is just like, this has to be put out there for the consumer. So that's going to be a big project of mine. And hopefully, if I can get Joe off his ass, he'll be involved a little bit as well.
I don't know, man.
I know. He's like, dude, I just want to smoke my Banana Crush and, whatever that strain of pot is. And
another video to edit.
Yeah, just another video to work on. Let's take a call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, how you doing? My name is David. I'm calling from New York.
David from New York. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I've actually been watching Joe for a long time. Just much appreciated all the info he provided on YouTube. And I just got to this.
Screw Joe, man. What do you think of the show? I'm just kidding.
I only listened to it after it was done last week, and I just got done work now. So I was like, all right, I gotta call because I wanted to ask a question last time.
Awesome.
So basically, I have a procedure scheduled with Dr. Dorin in New York City. So I just want to know if you, what's your opinion on him? Is he reputable? And basically that.
He is absolutely a reputable surgeon. He has a good track record. He is a member of the IAHRS, so he's certainly, made the grade. When he applied to the group, he had well over 500 surgeries under his belt. He's been with us for, well over a decade now, I think. So As far as surgeons go, you're definitely in good hands, but I can't say if you're a candidate for surgery. I can't say if your surgery is going to go well. I can't say anything, as far as that's concerned, because it's surgery, dude. That's the bottom line. So you have to be mentally prepared for it to go wrong. But the good news is you obviously did enough research to go to a reputable clinic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually first was going to go with Dr. Cooley in North Carolina, but he actually refused me. I only had a consultation over the phone, but he refused me because he said my hair loss wasn't bad enough. It was grade 2, I think. So he said maybe you'd operate later on if I had, if it progresses and got worse.
Well, I have to say that's a pretty interesting, solid piece of advice. That I know that you have something scheduled, and maybe since Dr. Dorin saw you in person, did he see you in person?
Yeah, I saw Dr. Dorin in person. I had a consultation at his office.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a different perspective there. That's important. But, you could always have a couple of more consultations, even though you've already signed on that dotted line, just to be sure that you are really the best candidate.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty honest with me. He told me that he'd give me an improvement, but he said, it's not going to be perfect and that I technically didn't need it now. But I think my hair loss, I just sort of always had a high hairline, and it's not so much progressive hair loss. It's just sort of like, I had a high hairline. So that was pretty much, I thought, the only option really, because other hair loss treatments wouldn't work in a place where you never had hair.
How old are you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm 22. I'm 22.
Pardon?
22.
You're 22 years old?
Yeah.
And you have a Norwood 2. Okay.
Yeah.
How do I proceed with this one? Are you taking medications, preventative medications, Rogaine, finasteride, anything like that?
Well, from what you just described, you said that you don't even have male pattern baldness.
No, I haven't taken anything. The reason why I'm getting the transplant is pretty much just because on the temples. In other words, I have some balding near the temples, but it's not really a progressive thing. It's sort of like I've been that way since.
I got kind of sidetracked in my thought process there. So it's more of just a genetically natural high hairline that you have now. Yeah. But what's the family history like? What's your father like? Uncles, uncles on your mother's side, uncles on your father's side, your father, grandfathers. What's the hair loss situation there?
I mean, my grandfather I know is quite bald, but that didn't happen till later. I would say probably in his 50s or so.
Okay.
And my father, he pretty much has his, this almost the same hairline as me. It just overall much, less density since he's been losing hair. But he hasn't really had a pattern baldness. It's just sort of less density overall everywhere. So.
Okay. I'll say this, and this is just my opinion. I don't know what you look like. I've never met you. We've never had discussions beforehand. I think that a 22-year-old having a hair transplant is not the best idea. And the reason there's several reasons, but the two biggest reasons that pop up in my head is, number one, you already have a density, I must assume, if you don't have any actual male pattern hair loss, you probably have a density of your existing hair that will be, for lack of a better, damn difficult to match in one pass. So what I mean by this is odds are, and this is not a slight against Dr. True, this would be a slight against any doctor.
Dr. Dorin.
Or sorry, Dr. Dorin. This would be a slight against any doctor that matching native density in one pass is not an easy thing to do. So you have to be very prepared for the likely outcome of needing a second surgery to add density. That is the first issue. The second issue, and this is only because this is the density that you're used to, and I don't really feel I just don't like the idea, or the likelihood I should say, of you thinking, well, it's just not thick enough. And that can lead to a lot of other negative feelings about the procedure, maybe about the clinic. I've seen it happen many times. But the second issue is you're 22. And this is from what you're telling me, it sounds like you have a perfectly natural, normal looking hairline that most people probably wouldn't even think has any sort of recession to begin with. Again, don't know what you look like, just going off of what you're telling me. Just not a fan of 22-year-olds getting a hair transplant, especially if they don't have any sort of hair loss. I just think it potentially opens up a can of worms for seeking perfection.
I have to agree. And again, all of the members of the IAHRS pay annual dues. It's not in my best interest or the best interest of my business to say, hey, don't have a hair transplant. But everyone who signs on, including Dr. Dorin, is also signed on to support our message of truth in advertising and that surgery is a last resort. So with that said, I think being 22 alone is not a great idea. But the fact that you're saying that you don't have any actual male pattern hair loss and you just want a hairline lowering procedure, Joe is probably right in his potential assessment. The initial pass would have to be so dense for you to be happy. That's not easy to do. Now, if he was going in and maybe going in and doing like a half a centimeter of work to kind of change the shape of your hairline, it's possible you might be satisfied with it, but I don't know, man. You're 22 years old. I don't think you're going to be happy.
And one other thing to consider, and sorry, just one other thing to consider is that what you have going on right now looks 100% natural because it is 100% natural, and what I'm about to say applies to every doctor on the planet, and that is that they can't replicate what you have now surgically. Insert name here. Doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
To where it's as natural as what you have now. So I just there's some big red flags here, only because you have what you have. You're used to it. You're used to having a full head of hair because that's basically what you have. And you're looking for perfection of what most people would already consider to be a perfect head of hair.
And here's the truth. Both Joe and I make an income from being involved in the hair transplant field.
Yeah.
And so, again, it is not in our best interest to tell you that you're going to be unhappy or you may be unhappy. But the reality is it's in our best interest as far as the way that we run our program and our lives and our organizations. And, it's just to let you guys know the truth. And then, look, I can't talk you out of surgery, man. You're going to do what you're going to do. You picked a good doctor, with, everything that if you were a normal candidate, even at your age, I would say if you had progressed further, maybe I would say it was reasonable. But again, I haven't seen you. I'm not a physician. I don't know why Dr. Dorin thinks that you might make a good candidate. He was able to see you in person and make a true medical assessment. So that's a big difference than two guys telling you about this on the radio. Or on the internet now. I would say this at the very least. When is the surgery scheduled?
It's actually next week, and I already put down the deposit. So it's next week, April 2nd.
Well, I will tell you this. If for some reason you need to lose that deposit, it could be the best money you ever spent, and it'd be lesson learned. If you choose to go through with surgery, my advice would be take the next few days to have some online consultations or even do a couple of local consultations. See if you can get into some of the local guys. Where in New York are you? It looks like you're in Queens or in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
Okay. So, I would get on the train. I would go to Manhattan. I would, set up a couple of more consultations just to be sure. And you know what? The truth is Dr. Dorin he obviously knows more than we do right now because we don't see you.
Yeah.
So you may be perfectly, a great candidate. It may work out. It may be something that really helps to change your life for the better. Dr. Dorin happens to be a very good guy, and he's a very good surgeon.
Yeah. I did want to point out, as for Joe's first point, that he did actually tell me in my consultation that I probably would need a follow-up procedure just to get the density that I wanted.
Okay.
And another thing, I also do want to, it's not that I don't have any hair loss. You know, it definitely is probably just because in the temples, it's probably also the shape of the hairline that you mentioned. So that is also something I want to, you know, correct. So it's not like I have perfect density and it's, you know, perfectly straight, you know, hairline where I want it to be. It's sort of like, it's also higher, but it's also around the temples. It just, I think if I just fill that in, that's what I asked him to. He basically recommended 800 grafts, which is, you know.
Did anybody talk to you about giving finasteride a try?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, I mean, that's something to consider as well, especially if you're going to be investing in, if you do decide to go through the surgery, if you're investing in a hair transplant, it's probably a good idea. If you are, you know, and like you just said, you think that you have male pattern hair loss or some recession, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, sorry, I know I'm being unclear here. What I mean to say is that it's not like, I think first I get the impression that I have no hair loss. I do have, you know, slightly in the temples, but it's sort of always been that way since the past 6-7 years, and it's not been progressing.
Yeah.
So I think I'm pretty much stuck with what I have. And at this point, you know, it's either I know people say you should wait till later on and see if it gets worse, but I think it's pretty much at where it's going to be for at least the next 5 to 10 years. So I figure why, you know, wait till I'm 26 and, you know, deal with it and get something done then instead of just getting something done now.
Well, why wait till you're 26? Because when you're 22, to be honest with you, you don't know what the fuck you're thinking when you're 22 years old. And that's just the truth.
It's not personal against you. It's just you're 22.
It's all of us. I was 22. Oh, sure. I thought I was in a unique position where I was already kind of like a battle-hardened, relatively successful entrepreneur by the time I was your age. So I was lucky enough to be able to step back where Joe wasn't lucky enough, because he was so green, to not have a hair transplant at a young age, to not let somebody sew a wig in my head, to not do all the things that were offered to me at your age. So while my hair is certainly not perfect, I am going to be 53 years old. I made the right decisions. I was at this conference, and you know, everyone's like, man, I can't believe how much hair you have. Your hair is beautiful, this, that, and the other thing. And it's because I chose not to get, at least at the time, there would have been plugs at an early age. Now, your case is much different. You're talking about state-of-the-art hair restoration. Now, I have one question. Did he plan to do FUE or FUT?
It's FUT along with PRP.
Okay. So you're also going to have a permanent linear scar on the back of your head for 800 grafts. And you are going to, you know, never have the option to shave your head once you have this surgery. So these are all things that you need to factor into your decision as a 22-year-old guy on whether or not you will be equipped to deal with if something goes wrong and if you lose that option to shave your head. And that's all we want you to do. We want you to have all of this information so that you're armed before you make the decision to pull that trigger.
Right. Sure. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck. If you go through with the surgery, let us know how it goes. Call the show, and we'd love to see your progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sure. And just the last question. If I do go through with the surgery, any advice on how to cover up the surgery afterwards? Because I only told, a couple family members, but I took off a week from work, but after a week.
What do you do for work?
I work in college finance. It's in the office.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. 800 grafts and an FUT procedure, first off, your head's not going to be shaved. If you're having FUE, then you'd have some shaving, especially in the donor area. If you're moving into existing hair with the placement of the grafts, you might have very minor shaving, just a little bit into the existing hair, but all you have to do is have the hair on top of your head long enough to where you can kind of brush it forward into kind of like a Caesar style, cover your hairline, and you're gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been growing now for a couple months.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, okay, sure, great. Thanks.
All right, man, listen, we wish you the best of luck, and do not mean to scare you. We just want you to have all of the information that you need to make a truly informed decision.
Actually, I did mean to scare him because I want him to think about this. This is, I don't mean that in a negative fashion, but no one else has tried to scare you. And what I mean by that is, I imagine no one's really talked to you about the potential downsides the way that we would. So I just want to make that clear that, yeah, I mean, there is a scare tactic here because we do want you to think about what you're doing.
Right, sure. Yeah, I just, I just, as for the scar in the back, I'm not so concerned because I pretty much always wear my hair quite long, or at least long enough that won't be an issue. And as for the front, I'm not necessarily looking for perfection, but as long as I can get better than what I have now, which is what Dr. Dorin, assured me, then I guess I would be happy. I'm not looking to have the perfect hairline, just something that more, better than what it is now.
Look, I totally understand it. The only thing that you don't want is the imperfect hairline. So just keep that in mind. These are always possibilities. We wish you the best. We wish you the best of luck. And if you choose to have surgery, I would love to hear your experience. So, call us back.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Good luck with everything.
Thanks for calling, Dave.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
As we're going to call it a night. Good show. Busy. Lots of calls.
Good timing.
Yeah, appreciate everyone who took the time to listen to the broadcast. We are doing this little show, which I guess is not that little, and it's actually growing on Joe's YouTube channel, which is great. But we air the broadcast live on iHeartRadio, obviously, for those who are listening, iTunes Radio, Stitcher Radio. We are also aired through the guys from Queens Network on the Bald Truth website, if you go to the Watch Live page. And now we are on Joe Tillman's personal YouTube page, which is embedded in several different places around the world right now. Yep. So that's very cool. I want to thank all of you guys for taking the time to tune in, to listen, to watch the show, and to call in. Remember, guys, hair transplant surgery is always going to be there. And for most people, it really should be a last resort. So just do your homework, do your due diligence. Some great resources, obviously, the American Hair Loss Association, which is americanhairloss.org. Joe Tillman's personal website, hairtransplantmentor.com. You can see Joe's journey. He's still answering some questions. Eventually, he's going to blow you guys off and say, you got to call the show if you want your questions answered.
Getting there.
Things are getting too busy for him. But we're also going to be doing, I decided to, because it's very powerful, and I know that we get a lot of people who are interested in asking me about it. They like the undercover doc stuff. Now they're going to like the undercover tech stuff. I think that is even more compelling in some ways because the technicians who work in this field, they know everything. And they know everything about other technicians. They know everything about the doctors. And if you find the right people, tweak their voices a little bit, who are not afraid to talk, you guys are going to get a lot of insight that you would never get unless you actually were talking to somebody who's in the trenches performing surgery day in and day out.
It'll make all three of your hairs remaining curl.
Curl, yes. Some stuff that I have from that just brief recording that I didn't air during this talk, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to these doctors. I couldn't do it. I was like, this is just, it would just be too fucked up. No one would ever want to get into the business. That's the thing. We need good new young doctors who are willing to learn how to do this because the good old guys now, they're going to be dying off. Joe and I got into this business at a very weird, interesting point in our lives because we were both very young.
Yeah.
So I flashed a picture of myself on the radio at like 30 or 31. I mean, I looked at myself, I was a kid. So now we're seeing the old guard, the guys that everyone talked about on everyone's short list. They're like a decade older than us. So they will be dealing with walkers in the not too distant future or retiring or whatever. So we need new young doctors willing to do this right. So that's why we're going around, and that's why I'm going around speaking as well. So anyway, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, check out IAHRS.org. It is a safe place to really start to do your research when considering having a hair transplant surgery. And if you want to communicate with each other online, we have a message forum. That's baldtruthtalk.com. Go there, check it out, realize a lot of anonymous people posting. Before you make any decisions based on what you read on a message forum, find out where the information is coming from. But that's baldtruthtalk.com. Subscribe to Joe Tillman's YouTube page. That's Joe Tillman on YouTube. And also, please, Joetronic? What is it?
It's actually, I double-checked. It's actually youtube.com/hair transplant mentor.
Hair transplant mentor. Okay.
Yes.
So do that. And also our newer page, which is going to have clips of this broadcast and also all of the undercover stuff that we're going to be doing. And that is Hair Transplant Podcast on YouTube, whatever that is. Joe, maybe you can give out the / and all that shit.
Did earlier. It doesn't have the custom URL yet. It's not new enough, but let me see if I can find that real quick.
You know what? Hair Transplant Podcast. You'll find it on YouTube. Check it out. Joe put it in the chat. So, guys, until next time, be strong. God bless. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that would be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I don't know. I thought it was funny at first, and what the hair thing. Then you thought it was funny on 60 Minutes, but then here you're at the French Open. I mean, it might have been funny. Well, we're sick bastards on this program, but still, not that sick. It would have been horrifying if your hair had fallen off, wouldn't it?
It was terrifying to me.
Come on.
I mean, it was terrifying to me. But
a lot of hair to fall off. There's a big clump there in the red clay. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, the only good news was it was slightly the color of the quartz, so maybe it would have kind of blended in or something. But that was the terrible. Losing my hair was a big deal to me. Beyond watching my brother go through it and seeing how it affected him emotionally. I mean, that leaves a mark. I just thought losing your hair, which you know nothing about, but I thought losing your hair could be probably the worst thing to happen to a person, at least as a teenager.
Women tell me they like a man's eyes. They don't care about their hair.